Good evening, everyone, and welcome to RVing in New England. And here we are with John and our special guest tonight, Jim Roy from Silver Moose Restorations up in Maine. Jim, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Why don't you tell the folks a little bit about you? You got a nice background.
Well, I started building homes back in '91 or '92. Had my own construction company for 27 and a half, 28 years, and built a bunch of homes, additions, their typical general contractor stuff. And then found an old rundown Airstream a few years back and decided to renovate that. And it's taken me to a new career.
That's fantastic. I think we may have a hiccup on our comments. I don't see any guests yet, but hopefully they'll join us soon so we have some commentary with them. Yeah, John?
I'm here.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say hello.
That's good. All right. So you were...
See, Jim, normally he introduces me.
Here we go.
But you just barged right on. Here they are. You just barged right onto the scene like a aggressive Mainer, and I'm even down in the lower part of the screen. I don't even get you don't need me, Zagami. I'm out of here.
Well, and I'll tell you what, Jerry Plant from Major's RV, he won't miss you. Walter Swenson says, good evening. He probably won't miss you. Scott Nichols sure as hell won't miss you. And Dante's on. Dante's up in Windham, Maine, Jim. He's down the road from Lee's, and Mark Polk just joined us. Mark, Jim and I were talking to you about the show. So I always forget the year of your Yellowstone and your Power Wagon. So if you can put that in the comments. And yes, Mr. DePietro, how can I help you?
We haven't even said, folks, it's great to be back after having last week off because of Thanksgiving. We hope you had a great Thanksgiving with your family. And now we're on the run for another 100 shows without taking a week off.
Well,
and we've got a very special guest.
That's what I pay you for, John. I pay you so that you do those lesser tasks that are below me.
A lot of people might not be aware of it, but if our guest looks familiar, it's because for over 100 years, he and his brother were on the side of a cough drop box called Smith Brother Cough Drops, and he was one of the brothers.
That's a first.
Well, I don't know. He's got a fan club that think he's Bigfoot. You got a new nickname, Jim, right?
Yeah, Bigfoot Smith, apparently.
Yeah, Bigfoot Smith. Yeah. He's tired. So you're tired of ZZ. Hey, we got to get Randy Murray and him on someday.
Oh yeah, that'd be a great one. Yeah,
it would be like going to a rock show or something from the '70s or whatever the case. But we've got people from Maine to Florida. Andy Parr is down in Orlando.
Here's what Mark said: a '67 Yellowstone and a '71 Power Wagon.
Okay.
So tell me
a little bit older. So I've got a '54 Yellowstone and a '50 Dodge Business Coupe that I'm going to pull it with.
Well, you're gonna make Mark feel bad.
And I thought I was old with a 2007.
That's brand new.
Yeah, I know. It's still under warranty. But, you have a very interesting story because it wasn't your plan to, when you grew up, you didn't say, I want to be an RV restorer. And
I had no idea.
Just kind of one of those crazy things that, you said you RV'd as a kid and then forgot it or we got away from it because of work?
As a kid, we tented. We never had a camper. We didn't have a camper till we got married and had a couple of kids, and then we bought a pop-up and quickly realized that 2 babies and a pop-up camper on a dirt campground wasn't too much fun. So we ended up selling the camper and getting into the whole timeshare thing. So we did the timeshare thing with the boys for years. And then since the boys went off to college, we got into the hot rod scene. I built a hot rod truck. That morphed into going to hot rod shows and staying at the shows. So I built a little teardrop camper to pull.
You built one.
Yeah. Yep. My wife's uncle passed away, and we ended up getting his old. He had an old trailer it was an old homemade trailer that happened to have a 30s pickup bed on it, and I wanted the bed for my truck project. And when I pulled it all apart, I said, "Wait a minute! I could build a trailer and build a camper on this thing." It was a converted old boat trailer. We figure from the 40s, and built a teardrop camper. So we'd go to hot rod shows with the teardrop. And after a couple of years of that, my wife said, "Okay, I'd like to have something I can stand up in." And we
stand up.
Well, the teardrop's only 4 feet tall.
Right.
You're getting dressed sitting down, and it's cute and it's cool and it's fun, but it's not really convenient. So
that's why we call it teardrops, because you can get it 4 feet and then you stand up and bump your head and start crying.
Right.
But it's interesting that you've got a scenario where you're able to combine your hobbies with your vocation, and so many people, wish they could do that. But I guess you could always go back to building homes if you got bored with this, though, right, Jim?
No. We just built this. We just built a 4,600 square foot shop, and I swear this is going to be the last project I ever do. No, I've been out of
600 square.
I've been out of construction for about 3 years doing this this camper thing, and gotten kind of spoiled working on the ground. So
ladders.
Jim's from Maine, so that automatically qualifies him as being humble. He's not as bad as us guys down here in Boston, but he just kind of glosses over the building. That's the new building there.
You got a closer shot than that, Bob, don't you?
I thought I did. He built this himself by hand. All right. No, I don't have it close. I got a farther away one, but because of this new feature,
there we go.
But he built it by hand.
How deep are those bays, Jim?
The two, as you're looking at the screen, the two on the right are 40 feet.
Okay.
And then the first bay on the left is 36 feet.
Okay, so you got plenty of room to bring the biggest ones in.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
So it's we've only been back in there a week, and it's already full and starting to close in on us.
And you dropped your ceiling so that you've got not a big heating bill.
Well, there's no heat in it right now. We're still working on that, but we have a radiant slab, so we're going to heat the slab instead of the airspace.
Ooh!
So that way, I'm not heating this. I don't know how many cubic feet of air there, but
you're heating the slab. Very interesting.
Yeah. So we're working on the floor. We're crawling under trailers. So that's where you want your heat.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, folks that are watching, feel free. Now's the time. You've got the time to ask any question you want of our guest. And
let me get caught up on who's on here.
From that perspective.
Susan Thompson says, I've been following his Facebook page since we are in Old Orchard Beach, Maine, full time now. I've got a summer.
Oh, Susan, okay. Hi, Susan.
You're my neighbor, Susan. I've got a park model that I'm up at May 1st to October 31st up at Seacoast Resort on Ross Road. This is our beach bagel lady.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
wait. It's not our Beach Bagel. She recognized me at Beach Bagel, not you.
But you notice after she found you, she was introduced to me, and now she doesn't talk to you because she only talks to me on here.
Yeah, and the only reason she talks to you is because you're controlling.
Okay, sorry, Susan, I missed you all summer. Andy Parr. Jim, you might remember the Andy Parr. You're not as old as us, but Andy was the gadget guru on the NBC Today show in the 70s. And he owns an Airstream motorhome. He's owned Prevost coaches, does some great video work in our industry. So thanks for joining us tonight, Andy. And I didn't forget you on that letter I'm writing for you, but I haven't stopped. There was so much to do after Thanksgiving. Jerry Plant is, like I said, he's at Major's RV, one of our big service centers. Frank Tate.
Jerry says, John Who. I just gave him a lead last week when somebody called me and said, who do you have for an inspector? I called Jerry right away. And he went out to Western Mass or Connecticut and did it. And he says, John Who. Jerry,
John Who.
not only did you not send me a bonus, you forget who I am.
That's called a finder's fee. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Rick.
With Jerry, it's called zero.
All right. Mark says, nice on Jim's toys that he's playing with. Dwayne Cyrus is the national training manager for Winnebago, and he's got a note for you, John. He says it's time for you to trade. You've been running around that view for 12 years, for Christ's sake.
But the thing is, it's made so well that I have no intention.
All right, here's a new guest, Vintage Metal Trailers. I'm sure they haven't been on. They're really saying good evening and hi to Jim.
Vintage Metal Trailers is my buddy Rick Robinson. He's out of St. Cloud, Florida. He's doing similar things to us. He's working on mostly Airstreams. Hell of a polisher. He's doing some great work down there.
That's great. Welcome to the show, Jim. All right. Susan says, ha, great. Hope to see you.
You are great. Hope to see you this summer at Beach Bagel.
You know, and as much as I hate to do it, Susan, why don't we set up a time at Beach Bagel, and we'll do it on a weekend that John's kind of running around Maine in his motorhome. We'll let him join us. Otherwise, it would hurt his feelings.
Their everything bagels are the best.
All their bagels are good.
But
Eric Keller is on from Fort McAllister State Park in Georgia. All right. How's that election? No, we don't want to talk about that election in Georgia. we don't want to go there.
The night the lights went out in Georgia.
Yeah.
So let me ask Jim a question, because as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, I'm the only one that has any sense of flow to this show.
We don't pay any attention to our guests.
So, Jim, you've been doing this for 5 years now. What has been the oddest restoration request that you've received from your clients that you can mention in a family show?
As far as what people want done in their camper, or? Yeah,
pretty much.
I don't know. They've all been pretty straightforward. I mean, we've done some that are that want them restored to somewhat original, and then we've got the other end of the spectrum where they want more of a modern look. We're putting LED lights, USB ports so they can charge their phones. We did an Argosy last winter. This was probably the oddest one. She wanted a incinerator toilet, and the one she picked was out of either Norway or Sweden, and it was $8,500 for a toilet to get it to the States.
Wow.
So, a little bit of an expensive toilet.
Sounds it.
Yeah, exactly. So, you had said in the one that you did over, you put in the big screen TV and LED lights and all the modern electronics as well. Is that right? Mm-hmm. So does it still look? Is that the one that was really polished up on your Facebook page or website?
Yeah, my own personal Airstream is the Silver Moose, which is what the company got named after. That's all modern amenities inside. We've got a fireplace, Corian countertops, and I traded a job with a gentleman in Augusta, Georgia. He's a polisher. I met him online. And 2 years ago, we took a chance and made a deal over Facebook. He would polish my Airstream, and I would rebuild his '67 Shasta Compact. So we hooked up, drove down to Georgia, dropped our baby off with him, and hauled his little Shasta back with us. And I tore it right down to the bare frame over the winter. And in May, he came back to Maine, and we camped with them when we went down. And in May, he came back up and dropped the Airstream off and picked up his camper, and we went to our vintage camper weekend up here. So we camped together.
Yours
had a big debut of the two up here.
That looks showroom new.
It's nice.
Let me try something.
Oh, Bob's going to try technology here. Bob, remember what happened last time?
They're everywhere, really. You know, it was mom's camper or grandma's camper. It's been forgotten about.
Yep, there we go. Do it. I tried.
Double sound. It's double sound. You got to kill one mic.
Yeah, I don't know what it's doing. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
So,
your customers are people that generally already, nobody comes, you don't have any used ones for sale there, right? Or do you?
I had a few smaller ones that we picked up just because either somebody was going to crush it or, you know, they were trying to get rid of it and didn't know what to do with it. They're all wrecks when I get them. So we had a few that we sold, but we don't have any. We're not to the point yet where we can buy, build, and sell it.
Okay.
You know, maybe
you mentioned you only started this 5 years ago, and it was really an afterthought. It was something you wanted to do for yourself, and then the word spread, and now you got units on your lot. How much work do you have in shop right now?
Right now we've got 2 Airstreams and an Argosy. A 75 Argosy, a 75 Airstream, and a 65 Airstream.
So those are 45 years old.
At least.
Yeah.
And how long? So if somebody came to you tomorrow and wanted a restoration of an Airstream, where are they in line? A year out, 2 years out?
Right now, June of 2022 is the next available opening.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And this was, I think you told me that you spent, in that 5 years, you spent about $250 on advertising.
Actually, I haven't spent any advertising for Silver Moose. That was the $250 I had spent was for the construction company, you know, probably 25 years ago. But I haven't spent a dime on advertising for Silver Moose. It's all been word of mouth.
So,
which proves that if you have a value that people want, they will find you, and you will always have business.
Now,
you know, we try to give everybody, you know, a great product, and if I'm not happy with it, it's not leaving. And if they're not happy, then I'll make them happy. I'll fix whatever, you know, needs to be done.
So Jim, I know there's no such thing as an average price, but I'm going to ask you when people come in. Again, it's a 2-part question. Number one, because the wait is 1.5 years for you to be able to get to it, is it because there's so many people ahead, or there's not a big number, but you're so meticulous in the job that you do?
Right now, everybody's coming out of the woodwork to have us work on their campers. So we have a lot of customers waiting ahead of time, and I've been trying to space them out a little bit, because what seems to happen is we start a project. Take, for example, this Argosy that came in. It needed some floor repair. She wanted a new kitchen. And we spoke today, and she's like, when we talked about how much it was going to end up costing, it was going to be less than they thought. So she said, oh, well, while it's there, can you paint it? So, well, there's another big job. The Argosy with the expensive toilet, we were just supposed to put in a floor for her, and she was going to rebuild the entire thing herself. And then she saw the one we were working on and said, nope, you guys are doing the whole thing. So it went from a 1-week job to a 3-month job. So
okay. And you'll keep it, that'll be in the bay the whole time. You won't like start it and then put it out and bring it back.
Right.
Right.
So we're trying to space it out and give us enough room in between. And then we can run some smaller jobs in the shop in between. Of my 3 bays, the shorter bay, the idea was to have more of a kind of a walk-in thing. So if somebody has problems with their taillights, or, you know, a battery issue or leaky windows, we can bring it in 2 or 3 days. It's out, and they can, so they're not waiting 2 years to have their taillights fixed.
Yeah. So Dante asked a question that I'm semi-asking, what's the average restoration cost? Knowing there's no such thing as an average, because everybody wants different things. But for example, if somebody had a 30-foot unit That's probably not 30 feet, right?
No,
No.
no. It's like asking how much does it cost to restore a car?
Right.
Are you restoring a Mustang? Are you restoring a Mercedes or Rolls Royce? Parts are different costs. Every unit is different due to the condition they come in. I mean, some of them the frames could be pristine. The ones we're working on today, we had to chop off 4 feet of the frame because it was rotten. So every single unit is different when they get here, and every customer wants something different. So whether it's a $150 Dometic toilet or an $8,500 toilet, that changes the numbers. So what we try to tell our customers is to expect anywhere from $1,800 to $3,000 per lineal foot of the trailer. That's a ballpark. If you're
Say that one more time.
On average, they're about $1,800 to $3,000 per lineal foot of the trailer on a restoration.
But the person that comes to you with a restoration is already in their mind understanding that this is their project, it's their baby, and they're going to do the job. Whether it's $10,000 or $100,000, they have the means to do it. You don't go out and restore an Airstream trailer as your first experience to go camping.
Yeah, most of our customers are pretty good with. They know what they want. It doesn't matter, like you said, 10,000 or 100. The numbers don't matter as much as the final product does. They're coming to you for the quality and the craftsmanship that you put in, because I know you mentioned on your website and some of the things that you post on your Facebook page, and we'll post all those links up in the comment section later on. But you've had to correct the problems of other so-called restoration companies, right? Excuse me?
You've had to fix those people have taken them to somebody else who they thought was a qualified restoration company, only to find out it was a hack job. And then they find you and it gets done the right way.
We're doing some repairs like that. A lot of them are homeowners that, watched YouTube videos and Pinterest pictures and thought, well, this is easy. And
I can do that.
Much like, the HGTV, home building shows did, 10 years ago. Everybody thought they could repair their homes, but they quickly learned that you need tools, you need, insurance, you need skill. So sometimes they get a little over their head. Other times, like the 2 out of the 3 that are in the shop now, were started by one of them. I'm assuming it was a couple of handymen. They were working for the lady in her yard. And the other one was a couple who was fixing it to flip. And my customers purchased it through pictures they found online and drove all the way from Maine to Texas, and were very disappointed when what they found. They got a better price than the people were asking, but luckily it came to us, and there's a lot of dangerous things that they did that we're fixing.
Jim, let me get caught up on some of our fans. We hate to neglect them. Dante says, all right, we already answered Dante. He wanted to know the average restoration cost. Ed Laturco, great to see you, Ed. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Is he having any problems getting parts with the pandemic issues?
COVID definitely slowed things down. Shipping's a little longer. Some parts are non-existent because either the factories here shut down for the pandemic, or a lot of the stuff is made in China. So, the imports from China stopped for a while. Just like anything else, even with the shop, building the shop, getting lumber was a little tough during the pandemic.
Jerry Plant says, the 5 most expensive words in RV repair, as long as it's there. You chuckled, so you must understand what he means. I have no clue what he means, but
well, it's there, but like this the one that we're working on in the shop now, the stuff was there, but it was done incorrectly, so we had to throw it out and start over.
All right, Don McIver, need to talk about the mobile barbershop. Jim?
Don. The mobile barbershop, a friend of mine just recently finished barber school and bought I forget the year now, I think it's 76 Scotty Highlander that was rebuilt as a mobile barbershop. And he bought it thinking everything was done and new, brought it home and called me up and he said, one of the corners is coming apart. Do you think you could look at it, fix it? So yeah, no problem. He brought it up and I quickly realized that it was because the water had infiltrated the corner trim and rotted the wood. So I said, okay, it's not a big deal. You're probably talking $1,500. We'll take the skin off, replace the wood, and reseal everything. And it turned out that the entire trailer was rotten.
Oh.
These people had taken 2x3s and reframed another camper inside the camper, spray foamed all the rot.
Wow.
And then, so it looked brand new inside. They threw a coat of paint on the outside and it looked new.
Oh, God.
So I called Ray and said, we have a lot of issues. I said, this is what's going on. And he said, I've got $5,000. He says, that's all I can spend. And he says, to do that, I have to cancel my trip to Alaska. So him and his wife were planning a trip to Alaska.
Wow.
So we got off the phone and I looked at my helper and I said, and I had told Ray, I says, you're looking at $8,000 or $10,000 in labor just to fix this. So I got off the phone and I told Tyler, my helper, I said, whatever this costs, I'm capping it at $5,000. That's what he has. I'm going to cap it there. And a couple days later, Don McIver reached out to me through Facebook Messenger, and Don is part of a New Hampshire camper group that are friends with Ray. And I had posted pictures online of the camper, not saying names or anything, but basically said, buyer beware. This is what can happen if you don't use your due diligence and check these out before you buy them. And Don reached out and said, we'd like to help. And I thought for a minute and I said, I've got a 2-bay garage. I can't have 20 guys come up and help me in this 2-bay garage. And Don quickly said, no, we want to help financially. So he reached out to his friends in the New Hampshire camper group and in 2 days raised over $2,000. So when they sent me a check for it, and a week later we had the camper all redone for Ray. And he came up from, he's about an hour away from us. And I presented him a bill of $3,000. I took the $2,000 from the New Hampshire group and deducted that right off my $5,000. So he had, I think the total job was around an $8,600 or $8,500 job, and we presented him with a bill of $3,000. So he broke down a little bit. Was pretty happy with it.
That's fantastic.
Thank you again, Don. That was awesome.
So,
Jim, let me ask you this question because I think you alluded to it. How much of an enemy to an RV, I don't care what kind it is water?
Water is the worst enemy. Just like your home, it's you have to keep up on the maintenance. People think that they just can grab a tube of silicone from Home Depot and caulk the windows, and it's silicone is the worst thing you can put on an aluminum camper. So it actually, on a molecular level, will scar and eat the aluminum, and within months the seal is broken. So you have that false sense of security that you've caulked all the windows, you've caulked all the seams, when in reality it's been leaking the whole time.
But you didn't know it because it's stuck between the outside and the inside.
If you can see rot, if you can see water on the inside, it's probably 10 times worse inside the walls. So when people say, "Oh, it's just a little water damage," by the time it shows up inside, it's bad.
Yeah.
Let me try this one.
Yeah. I heard.
Go ahead.
Say that again, Bob. I didn't hear you.
I'll try this one
you're going to try the video? Go ahead.
I'm going to try this one more time.
They're everywhere, really. It was mom's camper or grandma's camper, and it's been forgotten about.
Nope, that's not going to work. Okay, I'll keep working on that aspect of my technical skills. John, give us a commercial here. We haven't done a commercial for quite some time.
The commercial is simply that we've had such good guests that we really haven't had time to fit them in. But folks, what we want to do is thank the live audience that's watching us tonight, but also in order to reach thousands more people, all we ask you to do is hit the share button that's somewhere on your screen and share it with people that either are thinking of RVing, are already RVing, or you'd like them to be thinking of RVing and want them to come along with you. That's the way we reach our thousands of people. And in this particular case, where we're talking about RV repairs, many of the topics that Jim will talk about tonight are not restricted to Airstream, but everybody can be aware of the fact that, for example, that water is your worst enemy. So regardless of what type of roof you have, you need to have the right tools and I don't know if sealants is the right word, but you need to fix it the right way. And again, share it and we'll reach thousands more people. And then we get to bring you great guests like Jim.
Well, and Jim mentioned several times, it's not just Airstreams. I mean, he's known for his Airstreams, but Jim, you'll work on pretty much anything prior to 1975, right?
Yeah, we like the old stuff. So we've done Shastas and Scotties and banners and fans, and there were literally thousands of companies back then that made campers.
And they built them like tanks.
Yes and no. You start taking them apart and you realize that they are lightweight. They're a camper. They're a travel trailer. They're made to go on the road. But they did use real woods, which is nice. That's kind of being a finished carpenter. That's my thing. Not a big fan of the particle board stuff.
Yeah, Walter Swenson is one of our resident engineers. He picks up on a lot of stuff, and he's very crafty. He says he uses ProFlex RV for windows, doors, and trim only. So I don't want to bust his bubble, but is he right or is he wrong?
He's right. I mean, well, we use another product called Trem Pro as well, but ProFlex is a good product.
Did you get to the question that Ed Laturco said, Jim? Are you sitting in a chair that maybe you made?
No, we've had this probably for 30 years, but I didn't make this.
So what would you say to someone who is thinking of, because they like the look of the Airstream or the aura of the Airstream, they're just going to go out and buy one off one that might have been sitting in somebody's backyard for years. Yeah. Is it a wise thing to do? Should they have it inspected first before they bring it to you? Is it cheaper to just buy a new one? I mean,
it's like
because Airstream has, in my opinion, the loyalist group of owners.
Mm-hmm. It's like anything else. If you're going to buy an old car or an old house, it's always nice to have somebody who knows what they're doing look at it. A lot of my customers are buying these things and then come to me and say, "What did I do? I didn't see this. I didn't know that." But there are a few telltale signs of wear. If the axles are need to be replaced. The 70s Airstreams, the rear frames rotted out, so that's one of the things to look for. When you get up into the late 80s, early 90s Airstreams, they use chipboard flooring instead of plywood. When they leak, the floors were the weak spot in
just blow up.
Yeah, they disintegrate really.
Oh, they disintegrate. Oh, they fall apart.
We had one come in about a month and a half, 2 months ago. It was a 99, and the gentleman emailed me twice, called twice, and then private messaged me all within 2 days. And I thought, well, this guy's got a 99. It's not really what we work on. And his message was he wanted to modify it because he had 3 kids. He wanted to do a bunk bed. So finally I answered him and I said, it's not really what we do. It's too new. And he said, well, I'd like to show it to you. He says, I think it's going to have to be gutted because the floors are rotten. So he drove up, and sure enough, everywhere we looked, the floors were rotten. You could walk through. Everything looked pristine on the outside, and the cabinetry, everything was nice. But when you walked on the floor, it was soft everywhere. Airstream in 2021 or 2020-21 are now using a composite floor, so they've finally eliminated that weak part in their system.
Interesting. Parts. Somebody asked before. Getting parts an issue with pandemic protocol with the companies that may be backlogged on parts.
A lot of companies stopped production. They shut down their factories, or stuff was just made in China. A lot of stuff is made in China, so the Chinese imports stopped. So a lot of the things we're looking at getting, it's non-existent right now. It's back ordered. So we're having to find used stuff or manufacture it ourselves. Make the parts.
Fabricate it yourself.
So Walter had a follow-up. He says he grew up in a 1970 Atco bunkhouse, 19 people on camping every summer. They had a bunkhouse in 1970, and Atco's not a name I'm familiar with. I know.
Never heard of it.
Huh?
I've never heard of it.
No, there was Alco. Do that. Frank Cates says, bought a Wilderness several years ago with a small spot on the ceiling, found out it was a major water leak beyond repair. Funny thing, we met the seller at Disney World, but didn't fight with him. Didn't want to spoil our vacation, so we didn't even talk about it. Now, 40 years later, have new Airstream 23 CB. Amazing, no problems. I would have punched him, Frank. I'm not that nice a guy. So,
it's buyer beware. I mean, you got to.
But how do we all say that, Jim? But how do I mean, let's face it. Some of this is self-inflicted. I mean, people didn't know what they're getting. They just had this idea that, well, I want a refurbished Airstream, or I got an old Shasta like you had down there. How does somebody that's in that, first of all, somebody that's in that position to be able to afford to restore and an Airstream or a Shasta or something, an Argosy, got probably better than average IQ. How do they get themselves into a position of, and we see, let's face it, we see it with modern day trailers. We see it with customers who are buying trailers that are 2 years old from a private party. The private party says, hey, this never leaked. It's been wonderful.
That's a lie.
Yeah. So the new RV inspection program, I like the new RV inspection program that NRVTA's got out there to look at these things. Are you doing, I mean, it sounds like you're just too busy, but do you do appraisals or RV inspections for people before they jump into this stuff so they know what they're doing?
We've been asked a few times to come look at trailers, but like you said, we're so busy that it's just 2 of us in the shop. So once we get rolling and get a couple more guys, maybe I'll be able to get away and do more stuff like that for people. We have looked at a few and said, hey, look, this is what I'm finding. Do it with what you want, but either they can get a better price from the seller or walk away.
Yeah, it's tough when they make the decision on price. I know that in the the bus conversion industry of people that are doing Prevost conversions. There are people who will do inspections and appraisals on those, and you're talking about spending $500,000 to $1 million on something, and they do it unknowingly, and they write the check because they think it's a great deal because somebody posted it on Pinterest. And so hopefully we're getting better and smarter about that. But inspections are a big thing. I know Michaud Bus Lines down here in Massachusetts, they have inspectors that will go out and at least look at the frame on some of the MCIs or the Silver Eagles and the interior stuff. But that's got to be a challenge. But from a business standpoint, that's really not an issue, right? For you've never advertised, you got people coming to you, so
right.
They at least you've earned that reputation. They know what they're getting.
So Jim, when you hire somebody, are you hiring an RV tech or a carpenter / craftsperson like yourself?
Yes. We primarily I'm looking for somebody who's got common sense, has some skills in the trade. If I can find somebody with some RV experience, that would be awesome. But primarily, the guy that I have now, I hired him basically because he's good with electronics. So after just a few weeks, I knew he knew what he was doing, and so now anything electronic, if I got a trailer that comes in with brake light issues or whatever, Tyler is on it, and he can usually diagnose stuff real quick. So I'd love to find somebody who's a finish carpenter and a plumber, or good with tin knocking and mechanics. So we're all going to be doing a little of everything. But if I can find some guys who specialize in certain points, that would make my job a lot easier.
Does being a camper yourself help you in your business?
Every time we go camping, it turns into an advertising weekend.
Without any graphics on the outside. Nothing.
Everybody sees our Silver Moose Airstream, and it's like moth to a flame. They all gravitate to it, and but hey, can I see inside? I'm more than willing to give a tour. It always ends up turning to who built it, and so the story always comes out.
Yeah,
we do several vintage camper weekends a year, and
at Sandy Pines.
We do one at Sandy Pines, actually 2 at Sandy Pines this year, and then we do some at Shore Hills up in Booth Bay. I've been there. Yeah. So
this
on Saturday.
This is 2021, right?
That's for next year. That's for next summer.
Tell the folks what takes place there, because for somebody who may be interested in either doing a restoration or buying something that has been restored, and there's a lot of people that like that retro look. Tell them a little, what happens at a vintage camper weekend?
Basically, it's just a bunch of like-minded people. We've all become friends, and there's always new, families, new couples coming in to join in. Usually on the Saturday, we'll have a 3-hour open house where you can open your door and everybody can tour and check out everybody's work. So you just walk from one camper to the next and see everybody's different ideas and different styles. We'll usually have a community bonfire and a potluck dinner, live band. So it's just
We'll have to, we'll send John up. I'm up there all year, not year.
When you go to Shore Hills, do you take the open space over on the right when you come in?
No, we're actually down on the point, right on the water.
Oh, so how many people are you generally dealing with? About 20 or so?
On average, we're anywhere from 40 to 60.
How many?
40 to 60.
Oh, okay.
So,
And they have to qualify be a certain age?
Not really. I mean, we have people that are in our group that have a modern trailer, but they, they're friends with everybody, so they come down. But primarily, it's the older, the 50s, 60s, 70s campers.
Let me get up on a couple of two questions here. Walter's, I'm surprised, Walter. I've never heard of them, but Walter says that ACO campers were manufactured in mass from 69 to 74, 75. Now, I know that mallards were produced on 495. There was a mallard for years.
Yeah, right.
Were built on 495.
Right.
But ACO, that does not ring a bell. And Ed Laturco says, does Jim have any knowledge about the Airstream unit you showed me with the design of a yacht inside? His thoughts, if any. I'm not sure which one I showed you, Ed, but some of the new Airstreams and some of the new manufacturers in general have taken to making it look like a yacht. Any comments on that style, Jim?
Well, Airstreams were always known as, like my particular model is a land yacht. So they had the aircraft aluminum outside and basically a boat on land. So I'm not sure if it's the same one. There's a gentleman in either New Hampshire or Vermont that comes to our vintage rallies. He's got a 60s Airstream that's decked out like the inside of a boat on his. He did all the work himself.
Well, Bob, remember a few years ago in Louisville, Airstream debuted a new model that was designed by Italian yacht makers, where on the outside everything looked the same, but when you walked inside, it was totally different. Remember that?
Yeah, that was Techno. I forget the name of it. Techno something out of Italy that did all the interiors for the high-end luxury yachts at Monaco and what have you. That trend. Yeah.
Did you read Frank's note about the Argosy?
I read an article a few months ago about Argosy. Writer said Argosy was put out by Airstream to accommodate customers at a lower price point. That's correct. Did that mean it was lower quality based on your paring down so many of these? Well, it's not a question of lower quality. As Jim mentioned, do you want to restore a Corsair or do you want to restore a Mercedes-Benz?
Airstreams and Argosies are the exact same chassis. The difference was the Argosies were painted to save money. Instead of a segmented end cap on the outside, they used a stamped steel end cap. So they painted it so you wouldn't tell it was steel versus aluminum. And what they did is they put, I don't want to say cheaper, but
less expensive.
Less expensive, not as high end interiors. So it was an entry. They modeled it as an entry level trailer, and they were only around for about 9 or 10 years. So I kind of like them though. I kind of like the painted ones.
Not too much anymore, but
no.
Nevertheless.
So what's this?
If you had a chance
with somebody wants a Silver Moose nightlight.
Who's asking for that?
Huh? No. I just put it up as I found it on your website.
That's my one and only like that.
Oh, is that right? Oh,
yeah,
all right.
The gentleman that makes my we have a kind of a generic moose in the woods. There we go.
That one.
So when we do a restoration for somebody, as a little parting gift, I'll throw in some T-shirts and a moose nightlight. And the gentleman who makes it for me, his name is Steve Bill. He's out of Detroit, and he took my Silver Moose logo and he says, "I got something for you." And he made my own, made the Silver Moose nightlight for us. So that's going to go in the office.
So give us the history of that word, of how the name came about, the Silver Moose. I mean, how did?
So we.
You're in moose territory, right?
What's that?
You're in moose territory.
Yeah, we've actually had moose scraping their antlers on the house, on the side of the house here.
That must be intriguing.
It was fun.
But you look out from the second floor window.
Yeah, yeah.
So
No, the second floor window is what he's scratching.
That's what I mean.
we bought the Airstream. I started renovating it and got on a few Airstream pages, and everybody was naming their Airstreams. And I always thought that naming your inanimate objects was a little silly. You know, people name their cars and their hot rods and stuff. So I hadn't really given it much thought, and my wife was like, well, what are we going to name it? What are we going to name it? And she's always liked moose. So I happened to get a new lock for the door with new keys. So I was looking through some old keychains to put the keys on, and I found a keychain from a customer from my construction company. This woman was in Atlanta, hired me to look at, she had all the pipes burst in her aunt's house, and it destroyed the house. So she had me kind of overseeing the guys cleaning up, and she stiffed me for about $3,500. Never heard from her. She took the insurance money and ran. So I'm looking through the keychains, and her keychain was a little silver moose, little pewter moose. And I looked at my wife and I said, this is perfect. I said, a silver moose. You know, lots of people name it the silver Twinkie or the silver burrito. Or
That's right.
I thought the silver moose came out just because my wife liked the Maine moose, and we found that little keychain. And then my son designed the logo that's on this keychain, which became our company logo. So
there you go.
You got to keep it in the family, Jim.
Yeah. My oldest is an architect down in Boston, so he's done some design stuff for me. He designed the shop, and my youngest is a photographer and web guy, and he's my tech guy. He designed my website and does all the photography on the finished units, so we can post some pretty pictures. But
yeah, good stuff. Hey, if you had a chance to sit face to face with Mr. Wheeler, who's the current CEO of Airstream, what would be the top 3 things you would say to him?
Oh, geez, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't deal with new stuff. I don't deal with the new Airstreams too much.
Yeah, well, because Bob can introduce you to him.
Yeah, I can introduce you to him. But what might be interesting is when they get together at their annual meetings is to have Jim there as an exhibitor. Because a lot of people who go to those annual rallies don't yet own an Airstream, and they want to think about one. So yeah, we'll make sure. I'll send the link over to Bob Wheeler and make sure that he sees the show tonight. But Joe, it's great to see how he involved the family, because after I posted the notice today about our guest tonight, we got good coverage in RV Business Today and RV Pro, but then I got contacted by RV Pro, and they were just amazed. They were so excited. They're probably on. We get a lot of people that watch the show but don't comment. But they asked me to go up and do a story on Jim and his business. So I'm going to be writing a story for RV Pro, which is a trade magazine. But they had so much respect for what he, just in the little write-up that we did. That wasn't, I wouldn't brag about it. It just said who you were and what you did. But there's so much intrigue about restoration. I mean, look at we actually have company, and this probably doesn't set well with you, Jim, and I don't blame you, but we actually have companies that build so-called retro trailers, but they build them to the standards of, not exactly the standards that you would build on it, that the original company built. What do you say to people like that and say, well, I can buy this Shasta. It's just, it's just like the ones they made 30 years ago or whatever.
Yeah, they're not. They're totally different. They might look like it on the outside, but the internal stuff is still modern building materials, modern particle board and chipboard stuff. They don't feel the same. They're not the same as a vintage.
You can tell as soon as you get in and walk around.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if somebody we did put up and I'll put it up again. I'll probably block out John's handsome face, but that's all right. They won't mind missing John. That's your website. Is that the preferred way for people to get in touch with you?
I'm going to say 90% of the people reach out through Facebook. Okay. We've had a lot of people reaching out, just finding us, just Google, looking for vintage camper restoration in Maine or in New England. So it's interesting to me how people find us. We're just a little company. It amazes me how quick this blew up. We just want to make a nice product and make people happy and realize their dreams. So it's kind of nice to see how far this has reached. And I've got a gentleman I talk to from South Africa on a somewhat regular basis through my Facebook page. I've got a lady that follows me from Tokyo. So it's pretty neat.
Tell them about your Singapore rankings.
Yeah, the video you keep trying to post.
I'm going to put a link to that video later on in the chat.
Found out about a month after it was posted. Channel 8 did that as a Made in Maine story on us. And we found out it was trending on Singapore YouTube. Don't know why, don't know how, but it was it's weird.
We just have a few minutes left, but let me ask.
John and I are going to introduce you to a friend of ours. His name is David Merman Scott. Have you ever heard of him?
Oh.
#1 person in the world on developing fans for your business in marketing and public relations. He just bought a Winnebago Revel from Lee's Family Trailer down in Windham, and he's going to be camping a lot in Maine. I'm going to introduce you to him. I'm going to have him stop by. But he just, when I come up to do the article, I will bring you a copy of his latest book. It's called Fanocracy. It's about building fans for your business the right way, just as you have done. And he talks about he surfs, a surfboard company. I'm pretty sure it's in Maine, and how they build fans. But do you agree, John, that he would be a perfect blog, one of David's blogs or something on just how to build a company based on who you are, what you do.
But Bob, there's a double hit with Jim, because Jim is restoring a product that is already legendary.
Right.
So it's like looking at it twice in the mirror. Not only is his service spectacular, but he's doing it primarily on a brand that has become an icon within
the most iconic brand in the RV industry, and in fact is mentioned
outside of Winnebago.
I'm sorry?
Outside of Winnebago.
Outside. Well, in terms of iconic, it would be Airstream. Winnebago, in terms of longevity and almost 60 years plus of building product. In terms of iconic, in terms of building a fan base, that has to go to Airstream, and I will introduce you to Bob Wheeler. Let me see who came in or who commented late. Ed Laturco says, "How far is Jim from your base?" Well, it just so happens that I'm a little bit south of Portland in Old Orchard Beach, and he is 45 miles from Portland to Maine, so he's very close by. Ed, Don Hawes says, "Better late than never." Don, you joined with 8 minutes left in the show. You might you might as well grab another beer and watch the replay. But how's your shoulder doing, by the way? I assume it's doing well. Hopefully you had a good Thanksgiving. Frank says, back to your point about looking for shop help. I would have jumped at the opportunity if I were in my 30s as an old tin knocker. I would have enjoyed it. Well, but you're not in your 30s anymore, Frank. Nor am I. nor is John. But
Yeah.
but you do bring up a very valid point. What an opportunity to build a career in something that you love to do with people who are fun to work. You know, consumers aren't always the best people to work with these days. So bringing somebody in, and we do have Jim. I think you're probably aware of it. We have the RVing Technical Institute in Elkhart that starting to train people on this stuff. But you're looking for some craftsmen. I suspect you'd probably rather bring in somebody green with some technical craft
teach them.
Yeah, I mean, we can either way. I don't mind teaching them, but if somebody, let's say we had somebody that had an RV experience that I could, leave with a helper. I could have my own helper, and we can work on 2 or 3 units at a time. I don't think I'll ever be the guy that sits in the office and just answers phones all day. I've got to get my hands dirty. I've got to be
what's left of your hands.
Right. It's trying to think of the thing I saw. Hey, it was on Facebook. It said something like, "Hey, can you help me do this?" And guy comes over. He says, "No, not like that. Let me show you how." Well, that's kind of like how I am. It's I have a hard time delegating. I'm trying to, like with Tyler now with his electrical stuff. I don't even bother. I don't even have to check it. So,
Jim, based on what you have done in 5 years and having come from I don't think you have to apologize for anything. It says Singapore is big in RVs. Spent a number of business trips there. Most westernized country in the Far East. That's true. And Don McIver says Ciro Scotti outsold Airstream in the day. Really?
They were much cheaper than Airstream too.
Yeah, that's kind of like today. There's a lot of people that outsell Airstream, but they're not Airstream. And Don says because we respect the time that our wonderful fans give us any week. So, Don, closing statement, John, and then we'll turn it to Jim to say goodnight. John, go ahead.
No, a fascinating guest. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing what comments our guests make about your show.
Oh, that's a good point. We do ask Jim that if you, in your time, I don't know, you got spare time tonight, tomorrow, maybe the next day after, if you come back onto our Facebook page and go through those comments, because sometimes we don't catch them all. And if there's something that you can add to the conversation in the comments, and I will post your websites and Facebook, and I'll post the video also. But you've been a terrific guest, and I will see you soon to do an article on you. But what would you like to say as a closing comment tonight?
Just thanks for having me on. This has been awesome. It's fun.
All right. Okay, everybody. Again, hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. We're back in work mode. You'll see us again for a long time coming every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. Please share the show, and we will see you down the road. Good night, everybody.
Night, everyone.
Thank you.